Wake up, people. Something is much more significant here than we're being allowed to know. Why are governments persistently trying to blame Russia and China? I know it's an easy default explanation, but if you remember, there was that Representative Jeff Van Drew in Congress in North America who came out and said that the drones over New Jersey were an Iranian mothership.
Are you seeing this?
It's just not a plane, dude. Look at how it's moving.
Oh my god, did you see that flash? It's spinning.
Splitting up. Hold on, keep it in frame.
They're going up and they're gone.
At what stage do we start seriously questioning the veracity of government statements when they issue so many contradictory assertions? Remember, we were told that the drones over New Jersey were FAA authorized research drones, which was a total lie. The FAA came out and categorically denied that they had authorized any overflights in that area.
Germany's interior minister said Saturday that it has noticed an increased presence of drones over parts of the country in recent days. Describing the threat level as high, the minister said that Berlin will be adopting measures to protect itself in response. Take a listen to him earlier.
Wir stellen fest, eine ständige
We note a permanent hybrid threat. It's about sabotage and espionage. Everyone could hear in the past few days that there has been an increased use of drones over parts of Germany. Our neighboring countries are also reporting an increase in drones with varying degrees of effectiveness. We're witnessing an armament race. An arms race between drone threats and drone defense. We must prepare ourselves for this, a race that we must not lose. And that is why we need to upgrade our technology.
Well, that announcement from the German interior minister came just hours after Denmark made a similar claim. The Nordic country's defense ministry saying that drones were observed at several of its facilities overnight on Friday, following a series of sightings across the country earlier this week.
These incursions, whatever they are, may not necessarily be drones. There are people that have described to me seeing orb-like objects coming into airspace and then in some way morphing into shapes of aircraft. I have people that have shown me images of what look like the shapes of a 737 or a commercial passenger jet moving at impossibly slow speeds over parts of New Jersey and New York. It's the same in Copenhagen. Martin tells me that some of the witnesses in Copenhagen estimated the size of this object as the size of an A380 aircraft, the largest commercial passenger jet. Whatever these objects are, I really think we're at the stage where we need to stop swallowing and just accepting glibly the explanations from government agencies.
NATO says it will conduct even more enhanced vigilance and ramp up its air defenses in the Baltic Sea in direct response to drone incursions into Europe this week. Molly Hunter is in London for us tonight. Molly, what's the latest?
Jose, in the last 24 hours, police say unidentified drones were spotted near Denmark's main military base. And earlier this week, drone sightings shut down the NATO country's biggest airport. The Danish prime minister was clear, saying there is one main country that poses a threat to Europe's security, and it is Russia. A reminder, earlier this month, NATO fighter jets shot down Russian drones over Polish airspace, raising alarm across the continent. And today, Russia's top diplomat, Sergei Lavrov, told the UN any aggression against his country will be met with a decisive response.
Which is really quite extraordinary. I find it amazing, and this has happened with regular frequency right across the United States. Despite the assertions being made by the White House and by different parts of the Pentagon and by the Federal Aviation Administration in America, these drone sightings are still happening, so-called drones. I don't believe they are drones. Increasingly, I think the evidence suggests that they are certainly some kind of craft. But why would any foreign state actor, even a foreign adversary actor, want to put highly sensitive, clearly highly advanced technology over civilian airspace in Denmark, for heaven's sake? To what end? For what purpose? That's what fascinates me.
We have nothing to hide. We never attack. Civilian objects, incidents happen, but we never conduct targeted fire on them. We never direct our drones or missiles at states located in Europe, and members of the European Union and countries of the North Atlantic Alliance. And once again, if the Poles really wanted to figure this out, we would have proposed a meeting, immediately proposed a meeting. But no one ever wants to discuss the facts.
Who default immediately to, it must be the Ruskies, it must be the Chinese, and then they start saying, oh, it was misidentifications, it was civilian aircraft, you're a bunch of hysterics, you got it all wrong. There is clearly something invading the airspace of certain nations around the world. It's actually happening in Russia, China, Japan, it's happening everywhere. It has diminished a lot since the November, December, January incidents over the north of America, but it's still happening. And the interesting thing is nobody has ever provided a shred of proof to establish that Russia, China, or any foreign state adversary is responsible for these incursions, which, if you think about it, is insane. If something the size of an A380 was coming into the airspace of Copenhagen's airport, you would know for a fact that any kind of aircraft would be seen on radar, early detected, jets would be scrambled, the source and the origin of the drone or object or whatever it is would be traced. That hasn't happened. Wake up, people.
So as for the Danish case then goes, still no news on who might be responsible.
No response from anybody to say they were responsible either for the attacks in Germany, which took place in the Schleswig-Holstein state, which is pretty close to the border with Denmark, or also in Denmark, where we've seen fresh attacks overnight in several areas, notably at the Skryb Air Base and the Jutland Dragoon Regiment, and also, more importantly, this hasn't been confirmed by the Danish authorities, but by local media, that there was a sighting of drones at the Karup Air Base, which is situated in the centre of the country. This is the main air base in Denmark, the biggest military air base, and that's why the authorities are being a bit tight-lipped about it, but the reports from local authorities say that there were drones both inside and outside of that air base. But still, no claim of responsibility from anybody for these drone attacks. That hasn't stopped the authorities in both Germany, as we've just been hearing, and also in Denmark from pointing the finger indirectly at the Russians. The Prime Minister of Denmark, Mette Frederiksen, said Denmark had been a victim of hybrid attacks, which he said could then multiply.
We don't know yet, and that's the whole point. Why are governments repeatedly, as happened in CONUS in the United States, asserting that these objects, I'm not going to call them drones, are in fact linked to foreign state actors like Russia or China? Where is the evidence? As the president has said, they don't know what it is. Okay, so what are we talking about? We're talking about how in Copenhagen, Denmark, on September 22nd through to 23rd this year, there were sightings of 2 to 3 large unidentified objects near the Copenhagen airport in Denmark. It shut down that airport for 4 hours, and about 100 flights were disrupted, and there were similar disruptions. There were follow-on disruptions at other airports around Scandinavia. Now, the Danish authorities immediately referred to it as an attack, and they're pointing the finger at Russia. And there's suggestions that because there was a bulk Russian carrier crewed by Russian crewmen about 80 kilometers away, that somehow these dastardly Ruskies have been able to insert a drone into some of the most secure airspace in Denmark, a country which has some of the world's best radar, and somehow get those drones in without detection and out without detection. This strains credibility.
So there is a big investigation going on as to who could be responsible for all of this and how long this is going to last for. But I think what is safe to say is that these drone attacks over the last few days have opened up the possibility or the fear that Europe is very vulnerable, that this wasn't seen as something that was going to happen or could have happened, but not on such a strong level. And I think this has been a wake-up call. The problem is that the drones, for the moment, they can get through detection of radar, and they're quite hard to identify, and also can cause damage if they are shot down. That's why the Danish authorities so far say they haven't shot down any drones, because they don't want them to cause damage or hit an aeroplane. And all the drones have gone back to where they came from, and they haven't been identified. So I think this is an ongoing situation, but the finger is pretty much being pointed at Russia right now.
I am being told by multiple sources we have no idea what was responsible for the New Jersey incursions and the incursions that are still ongoing across different parts of the United States, including over military bases. I've spoken to somebody 2 days ago who's been sending me videos from Florida near Eglin Air Force Base. These incursions, whatever they are, may not necessarily be drones. There are people that have described to me seeing orb-like objects coming into airspace and then in some way morphing into shapes of aircraft.
So it's time now for something to be done. And one other element is that really I think there is a fear that if something's done isn't done quickly, then this could all spiral out of control.
If you enjoyed today's video on Anonymous Official, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching and sticking with us.